Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Andy Serling, Big A, Anthony Stabile.
Love that tie. I love that tie.
Do you?
Love. I don't ever remember seeing that tie.
Really? A friend of mine picked this out for me.
Love it.
She had very expensive taste. I think it was an enormously expensive tie.
Well, if you ever
She picked it
retire,
out, but I paid.
if you ever retire it, you know what
It's
you can
not
send
getting
it.
retired.
All right.
It's going to be
Well,
like...
at some point
it's
you're
just
going to
it's
retire, so when you're done, I mean,
I'm keeping it.
why?
I like this tie.
You going to wear it to lunch?
Yeah. Who knows?
Why don't keep it?
You know, I'm a fancy guy.
It's not. But it's not. You see, the way I look at it, it's not a wedding or a funeral tie. You can't wear it to either. So when you're done,
I don't go to weddings.
at all.
Hate them.
So if I were getting married, you wouldn't go to the wedding.
You're not getting married. You're not having a wedding. I don't have to deal with that.
But would you?
It's not going to happen. Seriously. Is it really? Seriously,
I'm just
there's
saying,
a better
but would
chance you're
you?
taking a hot air balloon around the world.
Not happening.
Anyhow, head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, a fun Saturday of racing today, by the way. Lots of good action. Oaklawn, here, Keeneland, everywhere. We will match them to $200. Your initial deposit. Use the promo code MATCH200. Play through Naira Bets. Support racing in New York. And more, as importantly, keep the money in the game. Do not allow it to be transferred to investors. Derby Bankroll Builder, the final one.
Should have wore a hat today.
Yeah, you're a big hat guy. Bet 50 or more to win anybody in the Arkansas Derby and the app only. Win, lose, or draw. You'll get $20 back for your bankroll builder on Kentucky Derby weekend.
Yep. Looking forward to having that bean in my account
What
on
else we got?
Thursday, April 29th. I know I have
We
openers
got the
that
show.
day.
Do we also have the cross country Big Five, right? We got the show 1 to 3 in FS1, 3 to 8 in FS2. All the races, covering the races here, covering races at Oaklawn as well. We got a cross country Big Five there. You know, Francisco, he dropped the ball.
You had a
He
good
really-
day yesterday, a clean day yesterday.
Really,
Today is
there were some blips. I was going to overlook them. I don't know. We're off to a bad start. It seemed like he really had it together, but he didn't even make it to the first race. The cross country Big Five, the Aqueduct 7th race, and then you've got 4 stake races after that, including our Danger's Hour, the Giants Causeway. 2 days in a row, Keeneland is running stake races restricted to female horses named for male horses. The Lexington is the 9th, and the
Oh,
Oaklawn
yeah,
Mile.
the limestone.
Yeah, Limestone yesterday. Toby's Heart, back to sprinting. Yesterday was a big day at Keeneland for horses that were supposed to be sprinting that had gone long in their previous
Love it.
starts.
You love this.
Toby's Heart was cut back to sprinting. She's very good, but she's a sprinter. And Caramel Swirl, I'm glad to see that the Mott Barn finally put her in the right
You
race.
were right about Caramel Sprawl. I'll tell you what, though, the Toby's Heart move, running her in the Here Comes the Bride, I had no problem with that. You get a lot more out of racing than you do training them, Andy. So, I mean, it was almost like she had 3 works than that Here Comes the Bride. So
Okay, that's fine.
That was a nice move.
It wasn't as foolish as the handling of Caramel Swirl.
No, it
I
was
will
not.
agree with that, but and that's fair. Let's see it keep her sprinting going forward. The favorite in there, Campanelle, scratched. Who scratches more, Wesley Ward or Linda Rice? It's got to be
Wesley Ward.
Yeah, he scratched.
Because he does it all over. Linda just does it here for the most part.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's an international scratcher.
He is. You make a great point. Race number
First
one
one of the
today.
week, I think.
Race number 1, disregard the picks. Anthony and I picked the same top 4. The exact same top 4 as David Aragona as well. I was teasing
Are you kidding
David,
me?
joking with David last night how he and I had very similar picks today, which is pretty unusual, actually. And we all have this one right. Now, the horse to beat is Scuttlebuzz, the number 9. And you joke about how I show you tough beats.
This is a bad one for
I still
you.
cannot believe that the horse that was in front in this race got run down. Frat. I was thinking Fled, but Fled I knew was an older horse that ran a few years ago. I mean, this race was as over as a race could be. Almost 7-2 on the 4. And Scuttlebuzz made this insane run to get up. Incredible.
And it's not even the lead that Frat had, because he not only had that lead, but Scuttlebuzz passed another 7 horses and had to make him an additional 7 lengths to the second horse when it was scary. That was one of the scariest beats I've ever seen somebody take.
And he was unlucky to lose his other turf sprint. He's
He
a
was.
legit turf sprinter. I think he's the horse to beat in here. I'll say one thing. I always am very focused on the money that Jonathan Thomas horses take, because he seems to be, as much as any trainer I've seen in the last few years, when he's live, they run. When he's not, they don't.
And you're going to look at, if you're using a DRF like we are, on April 1st, the numbers from last year disappear and they start putting the numbers for this year next to. So you're going to see the Barnes 10 for 32. More than half of those numbers came at Turfway Park. So yes, you want to pay attention to the money in here, but also understand that those numbers right now.
Why do you like the 4
Well, I mean,
start?
it just looks like he's more of a turf horse than he is a dirt horse, and he's a horse that can grind out a
He's a
few
turf-
dollars
he's a turf
on the
sprinter.
dirt. Turf sprinter, yeah. Well, he's only sprinted on the turf. He has 3 turf
that's what
races, 3
smart
turf
trainers
sprints.
do. They run them in
Yeah.
the-
So not only is he going back to his preferred surface, it looks like he's going back to his preferred style, and that's sprinting as opposed to route racing.
I would also argue that his form in the dirt really hasn't been that bad, relatively speaking, lately, and probably a little better than you would expect. So I think there's an indication that his form isn't that bad. He's just been in the wrong spots, wrong surface, wrong
agreed.
distance. And now he's cutting back to not only the right surface, but also the right distance. Thought he was a fairly logical horse. A horse that I'm not a big fan of, we did have third sort of by attrition, is the number 6, Disciplinarian, who came up a gold rail to win his last start. And he's had a lot of chances, and he was very fortunate. Red Mule, I think, is the dangerous horse in here, and I don't know what price will be. I doubt he's 8-1.
Me too.
It's hard to read, but I will say one thing. He may come back here. His last race in California was atrocious.
Awful. And that's a barn that took a lot of money out there with the horses they brought out. This horse didn't take a dime, and he did not run a step.
He was
so
bad.
yeah, the board being an indicator, the tote board, it was spot on here as well. And now we haven't seen him for. I don't want to infuriate you. So we haven't seen him for almost 3 months.
He didn't run well last time.
He
Race
did not.
number 2 is a very, very, very difficult race. I thought race number 2. And I think there are a lot of horses who can win this race. The horse to beat is the horse that you and I both have second, I think, is Harlem Nights. We'll go back to his race 2 races back, or her race, excuse me, when she lost to 40 Zip. She ran a winning race this day. She was wide every single step of the way. The winner got an absolutely perfect trip to beat her a Zop in here. I think you needed her that day.
I bet
actually.
on
That
this
was
day. That's correct.
That was a tough beat, but beat for you. And she ran the best race of anybody. And the next time, they took a shot. The race came up, and they took a shot to see if the horse was going to be effective going 1 mile and 3/8. Not only wasn't she, but she also chased outside on a time when you needed to be inside on the turf courses, especially the inner here at Aqueduct. And the race even fell apart in there, so she was really against it in her next start. I wouldn't hold against her. I think she's the most logical horse in here. She doesn't have to win, but I thought she was the most logical.
I think Highly Motivated broke his maiden in the race right after that. I think I made a big double. If I'm not mistaken. Yes, she's also the lone 4-year-old against 8 3-year-olds. I don't know if anybody cares about
Is
that
that
at this
good or
point.
bad? She probably has less room to move forward than
She probably has less room to move forward, but I think her form is a little dirtied up because only 2 of her starts have come on the turf.
But they're the most recent.
But they're the most recent 2 starts, and she's missed some time now. Another horse that certainly could have went down to Florida with the Sugar McGahee string, so you would...
Maybe he didn't want to race on the Durf
Yeah,
down there.
right.
You've taken Wow on top. Talk about her.
Yeah, so Wow comes in 3 consecutive second-place finishes. The race against Jouster when she got to Gulfstream, I'm not going to hold that against her. Jouster won 3 of 4 since then, if I'm not
Right,
mistaken.
she
Got
was
beat a
bad
nose.
in that race.
She was awful. She got Lasix next time, so maybe she bled in the turf race.
Or
because
maybe
the
she
turf,
didn't like the very firm turf courses down at
or
Gulfstream.
that, correct. So now she gets back to her preferred surface. Junior Alvarado climbs aboard. She's going to be a square price like you. Andy, I think Strong Point was tough to make, and Little Nutter was tough to make. I think you can make a case for the rest of them in here, the other 7. This is a wide open race. I want a horse that's going to be a little bit of a price. I'm hoping people see the last turf race and kind of are discouraged by that, and maybe I can get 6 or 8-1 on her today.
There are 2 Chad Brown. You'll get a big price in her. There are 2 Chad Brown runners in this race. We'll start with Gabby Squared. Came out late, bumped. For what it's worth. She is down towards the inside, and the reason I showed a little more of this race was, I would say that she was compromised by the fact that I don't think it was a bad ride by any stretch of the imagination, but kind of others were allowed to make moves when they were clear outside while she was down the inside, and she cuts that corner. I get why she was disqualified. I didn't see the head on. I didn't really care, to be honest. One thing I'll say about her is she never got a chance to make that clear out and unencumbered run, and she's kind of forced near. She wants to get outside. It's a little tight. Still, I think if you look at the race, that was an acting job, by the way. I wouldn't have taken down.
I wouldn't have taken her down.
That was an acting job.
I bet the winner, and I wouldn't have. And she was probably best, and I wouldn't have taken her down.
I don't know if she was best because all she did was save ground the entire race. and she cut the corner. And if you think about it, Jose saved all that ground. When they cut the corner, it was almost like a practical joke in the Alan Jerkins the way Joe Rosario cut the corner, and you go from almost last to second, like
You
in the
pass
blink
a bunch
of an
of
eye.
horses, yeah.
And she did that very fastly. And I don't like the race she's coming out of. I just don't think those horses are very good.
It's not a good race. It's not a great race. I'll say this: I felt like she was best the last time, for the simple fact that I know she saved all the ground, but maybe if she had that clear run, she was making.
She might have won with a perfect. She might have won with a perfect trip.
Yeah.
And Zoiks, the other Chad Brown horse in this race, and this horse did break about 2 lengths slow, length and a half too slow, was on the rail the whole way. But I'm going to tell you something about this horse. She better be a different horse this year, and maybe that's one of the reasons he has Kendrick on her, to see if he can do something to get her more in the game, because
she was completely lax. She was just completely lazy the first 5/8 of a mile.
Yeah.
And then she kind of made up some ground late in the game. Those races can be a little bit of an illusion, because the 2-year-old fillies, a lot of them are stretching out for the first time. A lot of them are debuting like she was, and they start coming back to you, and you're not really passing horses. They're going backwards past you.
Well, she picked it up.
She picked it up a little bit. The last 3/8 of a mile, they're bringing her back to run 9 first off the break. So you would think that distance, maybe they're thinking distance is going to be her friend. It's her first start in 6 months. They debuted her going 2 turns at Keeneland. So I would imagine that those are all good signs. But man, she finds a pretty wide open spot to come back for her
She has
first
to
start.
improve. The Dubowis we've seen in this country that I'm familiar with have done very little running in their races. Perhaps that'll change, and it's been a small sample size, not dissimilar to the Frankels we've seen here, where really only Rubelinda was a good one. Miss Bonnie T, who I put on top. I don't know if she's good enough. She lost to a Chad Brown-Klarovich runner last time out who was heavily favored. This was a tough beat. I bet her in this race. And she ran very well, I thought. And I know she's going 9 furlongs off a layoff, but she's the speed on paper. Now, she may not be good enough, but I'm not sure her race last year is so far out of it that she couldn't be good enough to win this race. She's supposed to be the speed, and I just thought that she'd get a little bit lost in this race and be a fair enough price. They'll bet the Chad Brown runners and the 5-horse, and I thought that this Bonnie T was okay at a price. I similar to how you took Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to take somebody at a slightly better price in a race that I think is wide open.
Yeah, and she'll. I'll tell you one thing. She'll be, like you said, she'll be in front here, because she's facing some horses. Unless the firster has some speed, or they try and put Harlem Heights on the scent, she's supposed to be in front today.
Race number 3. Well, race number 3 was an interesting and tricky race, and I think there's 2 conversations to be had. One is, what do you do with Romp, who you picked on top, a horse that I put second, but I would never bet this horse.
Yeah, started his career with 3 consecutive off-the-turf tries, then hit the turf and didn't run any good, dropped him in, and he galloped at Gulfstream off of a little bit of stumbled a little bit at the start and just galloped home. Listen, I don't know if you can believe that figure. Again, this is...
The 4th place finisher ran 4 Beyer points worse. I can probably believe the figure. I just don't know if you can have a reasonable expectation this horse is going to improve on it. I don't know.
Fair enough, but
I'm
if he runs,
skeptical
if he's going to run that race, see, him and American Gentleman are kind of in the same spot here, where their last figures kind of don't jive with their other figures.
Well, he's the other conversation, American Gentleman, who I don't like at all. I do think Romp is dangerous in here. I don't like American Gentleman. I have absolutely no idea where that race came from, except it was a big gold rail that day, and he was down the inside speed. So I think the racetrack affected his performance in a huge way, and the reality is that other than that, he isn't even remotely competitive in this race. So I'm not going to bet him off one number.
Enough.
These horses very rarely come back and win. I am more scared of the horse you have on top. I'm going to try Centavo. I don't love this horse, and I'm not sure about the race he comes out of. Blue Grotto was 3rd. He was 2nd. We'll take a look at the last 3/8 of that race. And I think there's a bit of an argument that Centavo is kind of spinning his wheels inside of horses a little bit here. In his defense, he did make that good run, and he cut the corner in here. I wonder if going 7 furlongs could actually be better for him, a little less distance. There was nothing, it's not like he had a bad trip. The track was very fair this day, but I don't know, rallying down on the inside, I just wanted to give him one more chance. I thought he was a horse that might be a little bit better than he looked on paper, that I'm kind of hopeful. I mean, if the 4 runs, he's the horse to beat. I thought he was better than Blue Grotto in respect for all the other horse who found a soft field last time, but he's not impossible. I didn't have a conclusive opinion in this race other than disliking the 8 intensely.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't have a strong opinion in here. I'll use 3 or 4 of them in the pick 4 and the pick 5 and hope to.
What did you like about Recreated?
You know, the little bit of a kitchen
100 to
sink
1.
here with the gelding and the Lasix. This is the kind of race where if you are right about American Gentleman, and I think it's fair to be a little skeptical of Romp bringing that race from Gulfstream here. I think there's a chance for some chaos in here. I would use Centavo.
You need a lot of chaos for this.
Yeah,
guy
you
to win.
would, I guess. But I mean, with the
It's 100 to
kitchen,
1 for a reason.
yeah. I mean, the kitchen sink. Manny Franco's climbing aboard. This horse showed a little bit. I mean, this
Jose
horse.
Lezcano and Eric Cancel, two leading
Listen.
riders rode him.
No,
It's not
I'm
like
just saying,
he
but the
didn't have
fact
good riders in the
that he
past.
retains another one of the top riders here, and this horse has some speed. We'll see.
He does.
I would think he won't be too far from it early. I mean, American Gentleman. If you expect American Gentleman, not to have the 8 of that
He's
gold
100
rail
to
last
1.
night.
Good luck.
Yeah, I'm
Race
gonna
number
use him as a
4
sprint ticket.
kicks off the Empire 6. So I got to start out with Fresco's race 2 back when Eric Cancel moved him way too soon. We'll look at the 3/8 of a mile. I think he just sort of kind of panicked here. And I get it. He's thought maybe he needed
Did you
to
pick
move.
Fresco?
Yeah, I think Fresco's an hour the horse to be in this race. I have no idea why you don't
You
like
hate
him.
this horse.
I picked Fresco. As I said, he moved way too soon, and he absolutely should have won this race. I don't know what happened on December 10th at the end of the year, but I'm not going to hold that race against him. Looking through him, he's a 6-furlong turf sprinter. She is, excuse me. And she's no superstar. She's certainly meeting none here. And if she's able to run this race and gets a more patient ride by Eric, who I think has had some trouble in some of the turf sprints. I think it's still kind of foreign territory for him. But the patient ride and the right trip, I thought she was the horse to beat. I was hoping there'd be a little pace, and I thought she was logical. You don't like her at all?
No, I don't. I mean,
Well, what don't you like about her?
My problem with her was save that race 2 back. I don't know what happened last time. The race 3 back. I mean, she should have won that
No,
race.
she shouldn't. If Silky Blue is a good horse, has a perfect trip, and she actually had traffic in
My
there, and she
my
ran the
biggest-
best race. Well,
my-
I'm just going to correct that.
Well, I don't
Then
agree
she's
with that.
running.
I thought she should have won that
Okay,
race.
that's fine.
So my point
that's
is,
fine. I wish I could show the replay so we could show why. But watch the replay at home. What about Chocolate Cookie going a mile, and then she's going a mile
no,
to
no,
16?
forget about the mile races because I don't think I disagree with you that she's probably better sprinting.
But you picked a horse that's so ridiculously, woefully slow that's only going to take money because of who trains the horse. That should be 20 to 1 in this race. I mean, go ahead with more glitter.
Well,
that's fine. But you,
Todd Pletcher
she's 10 to 1. That's fine. But I don't.
ran this horse second time in her career after not running that terribly as the favorite in her debut on dirt on the turf. Off the turf, she
Pretty
disappears for a
terribly
year.
first time.
Gave her a race off the bench. I thought maybe they were getting her ready to go long on the dirt again. Instead, they put a race into her to get her into a turf sprint. I think she's going to be a square price.
Okay.
Maybe she'll take more money than she should because of the connections, but I think she's going to be a square price. I want to take her at a price.
I looked at her. I'm not, listen, she's a flyer. I got no problem with the flyer in here. I disagree with you about the 3, but she is a flyer in here. The other Clement horse, doesn't he have another horse in here? No. Yes, it's Snicket. Now, Snicket's a hanger. I think she's got a chance to get a piece. I think the question was Guardian Moon. I mean, how do you feel about Guardian Moon? She beat a very, very weak field last time, and now she hasn't run in 8 months, and it's not a summer layoff. She didn't run at all after that race. She would have to improve, but I didn't think she was impossible. She was the other one.
No, I thought she was the one. I mean, with Loon Lake in here and Karamoka, she should have a target or 2 to.
Well, she's going to be forward here.
Well,
got speed.
I think she's going to do what she did in her debut. She's going to sit right off whoever the
But
speed
Herald
is.
Angel. I, mean,
I know.
She beat,
listen,
that's my problem. She beat
I
such
know.
a bad field.
I know, but
I put her second. I'm
yeah.
not. What about the 8 Moana's Tail?
Yep, first time Bill Mott.
Okay.
She's been gone
from
a while.
Danny
She's
Gargan.
been gone. From Danny Gargan, and she's
why
been
do
gone a while.
Why do we think she's a sprinter? That's the problem I have with her. I just wonder if she's better going a little bit longer, and she's got to improve. And she's, as you say, been gone 9 months.
Right, is this just the jumping
Not
off
impossible.
point? Right, not impossible. I think she's interesting enough, and one that will probably be a big enough price to justify throwing in a backup ticket or 2.
Okay. we disagree about Fresco. We'll see what happens. Race number 5 kicks off the late pick 5.
The Top Flight.
Top Flight. Interesting that Flash and Dynamite is still in, because she's 1 to 5 if that Plenty of Grace should come off the turf tomorrow. So I imagine we are committing to pretty much running that race on
With the
turf
one
tomorrow.
turf race, I would imagine
Yeah.
that was the game plan.
Yeah, because otherwise you would thought they would consider Cratchit, because he's obviously a huge price in here.
And it goes from an 8-horse field to about a 3-horse
We'll start out
field
with
tomorrow.
the horse to beat. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't. The others just can't run the dirt. Horologist, the horse we have on top. I'm a big fan of this horse. I think she's very good. And I know they come off layoffs, and you always have to be concerned.
You
about
on her
them,
early last year.
but she's a good horse.
She is. She's a really good horse. Not going to hold the race against Monomoy Girl against her 3-back, or the Breeders' Cup, where she kind of just was in contention and faded pretty early in the game after a long season. When you consider everything, the fact that she made 7 starts between March and November, that's a pretty long season. She was as good as it gets. One of the best races she's ever run here in the Beldame, where she was just geared down the last 16th of a mile or so. Returns for Mott from 5-month break. She's supposed to get.
She's the horse to
yeah,
beat
she's
in
the horse
here
to beat in
if she runs a race. I think the question is obviously Mrs. Danvers, and Mrs. Danvers probably wished that Flash and Dynamite scratched. She was ultra aggressive last time. Now 2 starts back when she just trounced the field, and this was the kind of performance that a lot of us had waited for when we thought as a 2-year-old she had a chance to be a huge player in the division, the 3-year-old division, and she just took forever to get it going. But in fairness to her, I mean, her race at Belmont, she ran high 80 buyers. It's not like she didn't run, respectable races in there. I don't think the track helped her, but being loose in the lead at a moderate pace.
Miss
obviously, it was
Marissa
one of
getting
those
ripped off
races.
the pace and
right,
her
Miss
finding
Marissa's
herself
got
on a loose
horrifically bad
lead.
ride. Yeah, I mean, she had everything her own way, but she still ran very well. Did she need a race last time? I got to tell you something. She was awful last time.
But in her defense, I think after seeing how successful she was in the Comely, the plan was to get to the lead. Now, Safi Joseph ships Queen Necky up here. I cannot remember the name of the other. The
horse who was speeding there finished 4th. She finished well ahead of Mrs. Danvers.
That was the other Safi Joseph.
But she finished ahead of Mrs.
And
Danvers. She lost to the other speed.
They dueled, and Queen Necky
But
came
Mrs.
and
wasn't a
picked them up.
rabbit for Queen Necky. Queen Necky was 30 to 1.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying she was. But they went a pretty good clip down there. And she was done pretty early in the game last time. I'm a little.
I thought she was bad last time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Maybe she needed a race, but I'm going to give her another chance.
Okay.
Because the reality is, if Horologist needs a race of a last, I'd prefer her to Lucky Strike. Now, I'm surprised. You don't have Lucky Stride 1, 2, 3, 4?
No, she's the famous 5th pick.
Right, there's only 5 horses in the race, basically. So she's your last choice of the contenders. But you don't think that she's somewhat logical? I mean, my problem is, I don't like the 2 at all coming up here. I don't know where her last race came from. I want to see it again now.
Well, her last race kind of came from the fact that they went pretty good up front.
And she had a perfect rail trip. The rail may not have been a huge edge, but it did seem like a good place to be looking at the race at Gulfstream that day. And I want to see her coming up from Florida and run back to that race. In fairness to her, it was her last race. Maybe she's an improved horse. I want to see it again. She's the one that I'm against near. You're against the 4.
Yeah.
And Thankful, I can't take Thankful. Her last race was just pathetic. Pathetic.
I don't know what happened last time.
She was pathetic, and they didn't bet her, and she was awful. She never ran a step.
She was awful last time.
She turned back into a
Lake
pumpkin.
Avenue took all the money. She was the second choice in the Lake
Yeah,
Avenue.
but there were 2 horses.
You thought
in
it
the
would be
race.
closer. Yeah.
They were supposed to be
Yeah.
closer, and Lake Avenue got bet like the race was
Well,
over.
4 to
she
5,
got
2 to 1,
bet like
right?
They weren't. She paid. Was 670. She didn't look 670 in a 2-horse race. Lake Avenue was running the exact same figure she was in 2 straight races, and she had the races up here. They were supposed to be about 6 to 5 and 8 to 5 in there.
She was dead the whole time.
Dead the whole time, and she ran dead.
She didn't run 2
Maybe
steps
she'll run
last
better
time.
today, but even if she runs her best race, I'm not sure she's good enough. And Horologist, she's pretty good. We'll see if Horologist can come back as a 5-year-old. If she can, she's a player in that division.
Yeah, no question about it.
All right, we got 4 left. We will be back after a quick break.
No sport in the world brings the wins home like racing. It's one-of-a-kind, high-speed, high-stakes action, and Naira Bets takes you there. Place your bets and watch the races live from anywhere. With Naira Bets, make easy, secure deposits and promotions every day to earn reward points or cash. Download the Naira Bets app or visit NairaBets.com.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. He is the Big A, Anthony Stabile. I am not. Race number 6.
Got distracted for a second. The Raging Bull replay's on.
Raging Bull's performance at Keeneland yesterday, in my opinion, is one of the better performances a mile we've seen in this country in quite a while. He was too close to a fast pace that fell apart.
He deleted the 8th pole.
He made the blue almost top of the stretch. He moved too soon, and every time one of the horses in the race, they kept coming out. I mean, I thought I was watching in the car. I'm yelling wire, and he just kept running away from them. They kept trying to run at him, and he kept maintaining his lead after moving too soon. He got a 105 Beyer. That was a sensational performance.
That's his fastest number by far, right? 101 maybe prior to yesterday.
No, he had run 105 before.
Oh,
he had a 105 when he won a stake. What stake did he win last year?
Shoemaker, California.
Maybe that was it. He ran a 105. Anyway, race number 6, speaking of turf and speaking of California, let's look at Noble Thought. Last race losing by a nose. My problem with Noble Thought is, man, he's got no speed.
None. Zero zilch. None in a race where, I mean, I guess you got Beta and you have Manifest Destiny, but you know, they're not, I mean, Heroes Hope. I have no idea. There's no dependable speed in here. I can tell you that. And like you said, this horse just has zero gear in the early running.
But the problem with our horse is he's not that much faster. I know he's a little closer last time, but he doesn't have that much more speed. Jose Ortiz is going to have to find a way. And both guys, Kendrick's got to find a way to get him a little more in the groove, but I don't know how he can. And when Noble Thought won here, those nose races, he got absolute dream trips to win those races.
And listen, the horse we picked is just taking a pretty significant class drop here.
I agree.
I mean, he's faced some, you know, relative killers compared to what he's going to face today. So I think, yes, they have similar running styles. If the morning line holds up, I really want Vittoria Kin over Noble Thought.
Well, I don't think the morning line stacked wrong. Noble Thought will be favored in here. I don't trust.
Guess.
I don't have total trust in this Vittoria Kim. This horse hasn't won a race since I was in short pants. So which was about a week ago.
I was going to say, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the problem with this race is that I have to share the text I just got. I'm not going to tell you who sent it. Are the concessions open in the casino yet?
And I know the person who sent it?
It's very sad. How would I know?
Oh. I think I know who it is.
I don't think you do, because you won't believe it when I tell you who. It just seems there's such limited options here. Because you go to the race, Gearhead. All right, he's not impossible.
Not impossible, but
because where else do you go in here? At least he's got a recent win.
He gets beat at Gulfstream in the condition in the time races, and got to go to Tampa to win.
And, you know, and he's another one who has no speed.
Bet that horse in the last race yesterday, huh?
He's got no speed. Yeah, he's got no speed. Well, he should have been betting the last race. King of Spades. King of Spades wants to go 11 or 12 furlongs to run his best races. His races going shorter on the turf are weak. You start going through. Well, Castagno's turf races are abysmal. Beta, who has speed, has no real turf pedigree, though the second generation does, but really?
He's just
Chief
skipped over.
Know-It-All.
You just skipped over Manifest Destiny. That's great.
Well, he can't.
Yeah.
Chief Know-It-All, he's got turf races at Canterbury and Turf Paradise, where he's running 70 Beyers. He was always better on the dirt than he was on the turf. Heroes Hope. His turfs are sort of equal to his dirts. Well, how do his dirt races recently? And I've bet him in recent races stack up. So you sort of end up where...
Imagine you're a trainer that was a work behind for this one, and you're just, I mean, you see this thing come out and you're just kicking yourself.
Well, I mean, this is a $25,000 claiming race here, and the reality is
$50,000 pop.
There's only 4 horses that have reasonable turf form that can win, and it's just, there's going to be some goofball. There was a horse yesterday, by the way.
Well, this race could be a goofball where one of these speeds gets to the lead that hasn't turfed in a while and just keeps going and pays $60.
That unlikely, but not impossible. That turf race yesterday that was won by Todd's horse.
Winter's back?
No, the other one, the claiming race. I have no idea why Chad Brown was 6-5 and Todd's horse was 4-1.
Oh, Mandate.
They should have been 2-1 and 5-2.
2-1 and 5-2.
But the horse who finished third and was beat a Zop for second, we talked about extensively on the air, because there was a very good chance time to testify.
The 7.
Yeah.
That he was him or the one were going to be the speed. Yep.
And And we talked about the air. He was 40 to 1. We were
40 to
talking about
1.
him as they were going to the gate. And I was making the case, I think I was with Greg or Acacia at that point, and saying, there's sources last
There's no
start race
speed.
was good enough to be a factor in this race, and he could be the controlling speed. He got beat a Zott for a second. It was a brutal beat if you played exactas, but he also went from 40 to 20. But something that people have to understand.
I mean,
and there's a lot of,
can
let
I
me
ask
finish,
you?
Anthony,
Go ahead.
that people have to understand about late punches that horses take from the CAW players, the computer guys. They focus on speed horses. And so very often, people say, oh, I can't believe that horse took the money. And look at him, he went to the lead. Yeah, because they're betting on speed horses. So it's not surprising the horse went to the lead, and that's why the money came in. He should never have been 40 to 1. He probably shouldn't have been 20 to 1.
Does that let Manifest Destiny into this race? I mean, he has a win on the turf. Obviously,
Did you look at his turf races?
But all I'm saying
His
is,
turf races are atrocious.
yeah, I understand.
I don't like them if you want to play them.
No, I don't like him either. But there's no speed in here again. No, I mean, at least horses that haven't
What about
run
Beta?
on
You don't
turf
think
in a long
Beta's
time.
going?
I mean, I don't think he's as fast as Manifest Destiny. If Manifest Destiny wants to lead, it's his lead.
I don't think it's that significant.
I think if he wants it, he'll be in
We
front.
need to move on. We're having a long conversation about Manifest Destiny and Beta. Race number 7. This was the one race that was affected by scratches, with Malibu Star particularly coming out, who was a major, major player in this race. The question becomes, as we look at Yankee Division, whether or not he's the absolute speed of the speed, or if any number of the others, like the 2 and 6 that are left in, can go. And let me ask you a question. How does Texas Swing not go off the layoff?
You would imagine he has to.
And frankly, how does Anna Road not go? What's he doing here if he's not going to go?
Yep. The good thing, if you're a fan of Yankee Division today, is he has rated and won. You would think he's going to have to today to dodge both of those horses from not going to the lead. One horse hasn't run since August and is drawn inside of him. The other horse is shipping in from Mountaineer, from Mahoning Valley. I have to imagine you're going to send one of those 2 horses to the lead. He's rated before, so it's not that big of a deal for me. I scratched into him. I had Malibu Star on
The
top.
problem with Yankee Division, and I scratched into him for second, and I'm not thrilled with him. I don't understand the love for Arham, but we'll get to that in a second. He's been on a gold rail in 2 straight races, so he's totally dressed up. Now, obviously, he lost to a very good horse in Mystic Knight last time who ran, but he still had 2 straight gold rail trips. So Yankee Division comes in here as a heavy favorite, and he's dressed up. So he is the kind of horse I should bet against, and there's a chance I would have put either the 2 or 7 second had I realized that they were going to scratch the 5. It's 3. It's hard for me because I really like the 5 and 3 in this race and thought they were very solid too. Who thinks that's a good idea, by the way? Anyway, as an aside, my head just blew up trying to look at it. As far as Todd's 2 horses, I got a stat for Todd: 180-day plus layoffs on dirt routes. His numbers are exceptional, and this, of course, applies to Texas Swing. How about these numbers? And at NYRA, by the way, because I always look at the NYRA numbers because sometimes they're dramatically different because he'll bring back horses back at Gulfstream. He's 10 for 28 at NYRA, 36% with a 280 ROI. They're exactly the same.
Wow.
This is a very, very impressive stat. And, the ROI is incredible when you look at it. I don't know what to do with this horse, but this is one of those Todd horses, at least a 3-year-old, that looked like he might be okay. I mean, I like him more than I like Arham. Arham looks like a Gulfstream horse, and he's got to be forward in this race with Kendrick going a mile, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he was weird because he was one of those horses. To me, he didn't look comfortable at Gulfstream.
The last time you said that, you didn't look comfortable at Gulfstream and you liked them here, they ran last and second to last. So stop with that eye test.
Who was it?
There were 2 Todd horses that ran here a couple weeks ago, and you gave us the speech how they didn't look good down at Gulfstream Park, and you thought they didn't handle the surface, and they just
Philly
stink
won
as a
by
matter.
10.
No, they actually ran nowhere, and I'm sure people remember it.
The New York bred.
No,
the old Gullo horse.
That's not. They ran nowhere. It wasn't the old Gullo horse. There were 2 horses in an allowance race. In fact, they were in the Yankee Division race, as a matter of fact. And you can feel free to look it up. You can't look at horses and tell me they don't like the surface. You got to. The horse ran a 91 buyer and an 83 buyer, and you're trying to tell me the horse didn't like the surface. Come on.
Yeah.
So he's going to run 110 today. Why is he on top?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying maybe he didn't debut until December. You like putting words in people's mouths.
No, but you say you
He
like the
didn't
surface, and he ran 91
He
Beyer,
obviously
and it's
has
silliness.
issues. He didn't debut until December of his 3-year-old year.
That's fine. That's fine.
I mean, but am I going to dismiss him in here?
Stretching
No.
out of the dirt at NYRA, Todd Pletcher's 21% with 199 stars and a $1.29 ROI.
And maybe that was it. Maybe
First
it
time
was the
route,
fact
22%, $1.26 ROI.
well, is this really a route? I mean, he's going a one-turn mile.
This is a route. Ajaweed and Bold Agenda, they were the two. We can get the videotape of the show.
We saw Ajaweed.
What?
We saw Ajaweed's on the
No,
card.
what about, you got Family Business third. Family Business was compromised last time, and I think on that starter allowance day, the track got very, very conducive to forwardly placed horses. If you look at that day, especially as it went on, nobody was making runs from far back in those races. And the time before that, he was wide against a gold rail, and Doubly Blessed came right up the rail. His race 3 back, the 94 Beyer, I know it's against cheaper, but it's fast enough to compete in here. I get the Yankee Division if he runs as good races, but Yankee Division may be very dressed up by 2 racetracks in a row.
He could be. I mean,
I'm a little concerned
they're
about
getting
it.
back to what Yankee Division wants to do, but you could argue the same thing for Family Biz. I think distance played a role in that last time, and now he gets back to his mile.
Well, he was closing in there. He ran a terrible figure, and I think that backs up the racetrack, his bad figure. He just wasn't getting into it. I thought he was interesting at a bit of a price in here, and I kind of want to bet Yankee Division. Honestly, I would like to bet. You beat me, by the way, for lunch yesterday. It wasn't close. Yours
It was
won.
not. I know.
In fairness, Anthony tried to negate the bet.
I did.
When my horse got left, but he got drowned so badly in there, I can't. That would have been
Fair enough.
embarrassing for me to take.
It's nice of
but
you.
Anthony did try to. It's nice of you.
No, that's what we
That
kind of
horse
do.
got bet so strongly. I know he got left, but he didn't run at all.
Didn't run at all. Didn't run. I mean, then you could say because he got left. I don't think so.
He didn't run at all.
He didn't
I
run at
mean,
all.
it's fine to make a little
No,
run,
he didn't
get
run at
left
all.
and run second or something. But he got bet like they knew something. I think Texas.
We should have hit
Swing
that
is gonna-
exact. I didn't hit that exact. We should
I'm
have
an
hit that
idiot.
exact.
I just used the.
We should have hit that exact.
I know. I'm an idiot. I should have had it. It would have been very close if the one horse had gotten out. But I think the winner ran the best race, regardless.
Yeah.
Race number 8, the Dangers. Do you remember Dangers Hour?
I don't.
He's a little late 80s.
Yeah, I mean,
He was in a race at Saratoga where there was a disqualification. I think it was the last weekend of the meet. A Silver something was the horse in the race. That was a Angel Penna Jr. horse. Dangers Hour either won and the Silver horse ran second, or vice versa. And I know I got taken down
This
for
I
a big
remember.
exacta. Silver Voice,
this I remember.
late 80s.
They
at
put Penna
Saratoga.
up, I believe.
You think they took?
I think they put Penna up.
Steve might remember it and text me, but I know there was a disqualification involving
I remember the
a
Silver
race
horse.
that Dangers Hour was in. I always loved those Angel Penna. Cool Blue Red Hot, one of my favorite horses. As far as analyze it, we'll look at the Breeders' Cup Mile in 2008. It's unbelievable. This was 2.5 years ago, isn't it?
I was there. I was with Maggie. Maggie and I were in the paddock for HRRN, Paddock and Winter Circle.
That's I bet him in here. He ran. This was heartbreaking, wasn't it? I mean, talk about a race. Even watching the replay, I'm yelling wire internally, right? What a race he ran. He fought off everybody the whole way, and right at the end, he just got nailed. Man,
People look at the times that on that bog. People don't realize how fast he ran.
Oh,
that day.
He was tremendous.
Best race of his career by light years.
He was tremendous in that race. I agree. Listen, he's never run a bad race.
Nope.
Here's my concern about him. I know he came back in the Red Bank and he got 100 Beyer. Talking about speed figures in the turf, how do you think he ran in that race compared to the Breeders' Cup where he got the same 100?
50 points.
I mean, look at who he beat in that race.
And listen, Joe Bravo put this horse in a spot. I mean, he was just. If you want to look at perfect trip in the dictionary, this race should be right alongside of it. And listen, he did the right thing because the horse hadn't run in almost 2
He beat
years.
Abiding Star, and nobody loves Abiding Star more than me. But
wish
to be
Abiding Star was in the
150 to 1
fifth race today, 6th race today.
Yeah, I would like him.
Single.
He'd be a good. He'd have a good shot there. He got
it'd be
claimed,
easy.
I think.
He did.
Kathleen O'Connell claimed him. Yeah.
He'd be 6-5 in a single today. It'd be perfect.
God.
He'd make things very easy.
What would he do in that race?
Forget it. Forget about it. Yeah, I mean, listen, he ran so well in that Breeders' Cup.
I just don't. I don't trust. Well, listen, Raging Bull ran his best race, six-year-old, but he's at consistency. This horse has big foot problems, quarter cracked issues.
You're gone 2 years, yeah. Obviously, you got big issues.
I want him to run well.
months.
I'm friends with Bill Lawrence. Love to see him run well for Bill and Chad. I don't trust this horse. I just don't trust him.
I mean, with a 2-year layoff line and 2 races and then another big break and another 7-month break, it's hard to trust him. But
he'll win for fun if he runs his race.
if he runs, and I think
Bury his horses.
I think this is the kind of field where you can be a little more confident in that theory. If he runs his race, yes, he has to run his race, but to me, if he runs his race, they're all running clearly for second money.
I could not agree more with that. He's the best horse in this race.
And I'm confident, I think it's a confidence in Chad getting him ready to do that. And quite frankly,
I'm just not sure he has it in him. That's what worries me.
He might not.
That's what worries
me.
But
I know he's going to go over there with his best chance to, number one. And number two, I'm not thrilled with the rest of these, to be honest with you. This is the kind of race where if he does that, you feel a little more confident that he's going to do that than one of the others is going to come up with a big effort.
Well, let's talk about Decorated Invader. And I took a lot of heat last year because I was critical of Decorated Invader, not because I don't think he's a good horse, because he is a good horse, but because, and this is him losing the Hill Prince to Get Smokin', who, by the way, is a very good horse as well.
Yep.
And I think we just sort of underrated him throughout the year, and he's turned into a good horse. But people were talking about Decorated Invader as though he was somehow some sort of really special 3-year-old, and he wasn't. He was beating bad fields and getting mediocre speed figures. Christophe has always felt strongly that he'd be best at a mile. He didn't get a lot of chances to run mile races. He ran well and better in his mile races. Now, as a 4-year-old, there are more important races in a mile.
He's going to get a chance to test that theory this year.
He's got to improve, because at the end of the day,
no question.
He's not good enough to win this race. Now, but he is also a newly turned 4-year-old who has every right to take a real step forward.
He has every right to take a step forward. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. I thought maybe they were playing catch up. When you go back and take another look at him, it may just yes, he does have to get better. You would assume that with maturity and turning 4 that's going to happen. He might just have distance issues, and if you look at the last,
Christophe has felt this. I mean, he talked about this with me in June.
I mean, you look at the last.
Like he ever felt
you look at the last
long.
3 races of the year. Yes, the figures are all comparable.
They're fine,
but the race he ran best in was the Hill Prince. I mean,
maybe he didn't love yielding.
Yeah. I think the mile race that he ran.
Good, gets Norman. These are solid horses. They're not, listen, as we said, he's not being analyzed if Analyzer runs his race unless he takes a giant step forward. But
and
there are reasons not to trust
Analyze
it. There are reasons not to trust Analyze it, and if he doesn't, but listen, it's not like Rinaldi's a bum. I know he's had things go his own way, but he still ran okay in some of these races, and he's going to be forward. He's supposed to be in front in this race.
I bet him last year on the Audie Schiller here.
I'm not his biggest fan.
Yeah, he should have got the job done that day, and he didn't.
No, actually, so should Delaware, the horse I picked. As far as Delaware, I still think that Delaware's Audie Schiller, even though he hung that day, is good enough to win this race, if Analyze It doesn't run his race. And I don't know what race the chart caller at Tampa was watching last time. He either wasn't in the booth or he never saw Delaware. But my suggestion to you is to go and watch the replay of the Tampa Bay race, because he doesn't have significant trouble once. He has significant trouble twice in this race, because you look at the race and your inclination is, my God, he ran terribly. And then you say, well, he ran badly at Gulfstream the time before that. Okay, he's not a 1 1/8 horse, number one. He was also too close to a pace that completely evaporated in there. And then last time, so he's actually dressed down off that race. Then he gets this ridiculous trip last time at Tampa, and I'm going to say he's better shorter anyway. So 7 furlongs to a mile. Would I like him around the 1 turn? 7 furlongs to a mile at Belmont? Yeah. But I don't know that the pace isn't going to be fair in this race, and I think Delaware's going to get lost in the betting because people are going to look at his last 2 lines, and I think you can make legitimate excuses. I don't think he's the likeliest winner by any stretch of the imagination. But if he's 8 or 10 to 1, I'd rather bet on him than Decorated Invader at 5 to 2 or Analyze it at 7 to 5.
I can't imagine he'll be that high with Price Talk coming out of here. So I think Price Talk was shorter, but I mean, I think you'll get 6, 8 to 1 on him today.
Well, Rinaldi's going to take more money. I think they are going to bet Hieronymus. They love Brad Cox. I don't like this horse at all.
No, me either.
But to be fair, He's got speed, and he's got Kendrick, and his race against Pixelate was pretty good in the Black Gold, and obviously something happened in the War Champ, and that was a wildly tough race he was in. So like Strader won it, is one of the best turf horses going a mile in the country. So it's not like he lost to a bad horse last time, and I don't think you should completely dismiss this horse.
No,
I mean, if you're going to use the argument that Decorated Invader can move forward as a new 4-year-old, why can't he?
Hieronymus. Yeah, he can.
I mean, I don't particularly like him, but why can't he?
He can. Those horses, I feel like those horses that do all their best work down at the fairgrounds. It's almost like when you go to Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Happens at the fairgrounds.
Race number 9.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Race number 9. What price is Pave It going to be in this race? Take a look at his last
3 to
race.
5?
No, he's not going to be 3 to 5 off a 14-month layoff, is he? It's going to be short.
Have you seen what went on here this past winter with these Gargan horses? I know he's off a long layoff and such, but he's also dropping to the bottom and was competitive in these races. And that's kind of counterintuitive. Well, if he's competitive in 2 of his 4 races for that, and he's been gone this long, why is he in for the quarter? Well, because obviously there's issues. But I think this. I mean, even money. I mean, he's gonna be even money. He'll be close to even money than 2 to 1.
He's no superstar.
No, he's not a superstar. But I mean,
he ran well in this race. I bet him that day.
If he ran that race,
he was with the track that day, though. The rail was very good that day.
If he runs that race with a race 3 back, he's going to win.
How is Kickerland going to win this race?
I'm not. I think Pave It is going to win the race, but I couldn't take Pave It at a short price off that break.
How is he going to be second to Pave It?
Well, Kickerland. Do you think Kickerland's that much different than the rest of these?
Yeah. What do I think? I think it's a race where there's significant new faces that are far more interesting. I don't think Kickerland's impossible to get a piece of this race. I don't want to correct you. Mr. Annoying scratched again. He's becoming Mr. Annoying.
Trying to find out
he could be more annoying than me.
Trying to find out about Rushy, too. They're saying Rushy scratched, but...
looks like it's cold at Keeneland.
It does. There's umbrellas up, too.
Ooh. As far as other interesting horses in here, one of them is Hangout for Dave Donk. New Gelding gets Lasix, ran against Uno, even took a little money for a Dave Donk first-time starter that day, ran the mud, then ran in a wet track. Why can't Hangout run a little bit in here? Don't you want to use him a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not sold on Kickerland or Pave. I think Pave It's likely to win, but I'm using 5 horses in here to lock it up.
You don't have Micro Me in here at all, and Micro Me lost all chance to start. Now, I know he wasn't bet, but that was a pretty strong field. Now he switches to Ratio to Paz. You don't think he's a little interesting in here?
Well, I think I have a problem with the fact that this horse lost all chance at the start and then not giving him another shot back in the special weight race and dropping him right in for the quarter. That makes no sense to me.
He's a homebred. I don't know.
That makes no sense to me, Andy.
You really? You think he's a horse that he was 16 to 1 is going to win a maiden special weight?
All I'm saying is, like you said,
we'll agree to disagree.
His day was over when the gate opened, and they didn't give him one more chance back.
We will agree to disagree. I hear you. We'll have to agree to disagree. And I think Hotel Charlie's going to run better in here. I hear you with Kickerland. I understand. But as a second choice, I think he's a horse to bet against. We disagree.
I didn't have the morning line. If I knew he was a second choice, I probably would have taken a shot with Hotel Charlie to beat Pave It. I would have put Pave It second. I think you got to have him on the, Pave It got to be 1-2 in there.
I don't disagree. It's been a pleasure. Should we do this again tomorrow?
Sure.
You ready? Hanging out today?
No.
Going to the casino to get some food? Head over to Naira Bets if you're not a member.
I'd like to bet a lunch. I know who it was.
You can say the person's last initial.
M.
Incorrect.
Well, okay.
I told you wouldn't know it. Anyway, head over to Naira Bets. Use promo code MATCH200. We will match the $200 initial deposit. Play through Naira Bets. Betting through Naira Bets. What do we got? Bankroll Builder next. Bet 50 or more to win on any horse in the Arkansas Derby. Through the app, and the app only, you'll get $20 back for Derby weekend. Win, lose, or draw. What else we got? We got the pick 5, race 7 here, and then we got 4 straight stakes. All starts at 4:42. And finally, we're on from 1 to 8. I'm on from 1 to 5, so I got to head up there and do that. Box FS1 from 1 to 3, FS2 from 3 to 8. Aqueduct and Oaklawn. Everybody, have a great day. Anthony, you have a great day.
You too. See you tomorrow.
Johnny I, up next.